How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
All right. Are we good?
Hi.
We're good.
Congratulations again.
All right. Good evening. We're going to open the meeting at this time, and it's March 21st already, 6 p.m. Thursday, 2019. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Royal Palm Beach Council Annual Organization Meeting. Before we start, can you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Diane, please let the record show that all members of council are present.
Yes, Mayor.
And we'll start off with this evening's regular agenda for the organization meeting. And the first item is resolution number 1904.
Let's do the swearing in first.
Well, that's
Number one.
Number one.
That wasn't number one, was
And
it?
we'll start with group two.
Oh, you know what? I had it.
See what?
It was sick,
That's
rolled
fine.
up too high. As I was saying, and then we'll finish with the Pledge of Allegiance. Technology, right? We're going to have the swearing in of council members from groups 2 and 4.
And
So
Mayor,
with
I'd like
that,
to start with group two.
Okay.
Councilman Blunt.
that's so funny. I had it. Look, I had it up here.
I know. I was looking at the same place.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where's yeah?
Begin with raising your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Richard Volantis,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
the duties of councilman of the Village of Royal Palm Beach,
the duties of councilman of the Village of Royal Palm Beach,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. Thank you.
And then Mayor will do group four. And Jan, I state your name.
I, Jan Rodesky,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
under
under the Constitution of the state,
the state,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
the duties of councilwoman for the Village of Royal Palm Beach,
the duties of councilwoman of the Village of Royal Palm Beach,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I'm now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if-
Thank you.
We're going to shout out from over here.
I got it. I got you. We'll get you.
A good wave.
We'll get a pen.
Yeah.
Meaningful wave will do it.
There you go.
Well, I'd like to say congratulations once again to Councilman Valentis and Councilwoman Radowski. You ran a great campaign. Oh, that's right, you were on a post. No, we're very happy that how things have turned out. I think we have a great council here. I'm so glad we're going to continue to be able to work together. With that, would either of you like to make any comments?
I would just say that honored and humbled to serve again for another 2 years for the residents of Royal Palm.
Okay.
I'll copy what Jan said.
Okay. Okay, with that, now I'll move down to that item on the agenda, which is which is resolution number 1904. It's a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, appointing a village clerk. Whereas pursuant to Article 3, Section 6 of the Village Charter, the Village Council shall meet for the organization prior to the last day in March of each year following the election. And whereas, pursuant to Article 3, Section 7 of the Village Charter, at such organization meeting, the Village Council shall appoint a village clerk who shall hold office for a term of 1 year and until his or her successor shall be appointed and qualified. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, that Diane DeSanto is hereby appointed village clerk by the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, passed and adopted this 21st day of March. We have to take?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve Resolution 19-04.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let it show that you are now the village clerk again. 5-0. Okay, congratulations. Okay, the next item is agenda item number 2 is resolution number 19-05. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, appointing a village treasurer. Whereas pursuant to Article 3, Section 6 of the Village Charter, the Village Council shall meet for the organization prior to the last day in March of each year following the election. And whereas pursuant to Article 3, Section 7 of the Village Charter, at each such organization meeting, the Village Council shall appoint a village treasurer who shall hold office for a term of 1 year until his or her successor shall be appointed and qualified. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, that Stanley Hartman is hereby appointed village treasurer by the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, passed and adopted this 28th day of March 2019. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve regular agenda item number 2.
Second.
What number did I say?
Well, it says 28 there, but
Yeah, it's supposed to.
No,
today the
it
21st.
says 28 because it's supposed to be done by the last day of the month.
Oh, okay. You have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Stanley, where are you? You're in again. Congratulations. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R2 was approved.
Yes.
5-0. Moving right along, we have item number 3 is the appointment of council liaison officers, starting with the Recreation Advisory Board. Your motion? Right now, you have that?
I would like to continue.
Make a motion to appoint or continue the appointment of the vice mayor on the Recreation Advisory Board. as
Second.
Liaison.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Diane, please let the record show that the liaison officer for the Recreation Advisory Board is Selena Samuels, Councilwoman Samuels. Okay, we now need someone to be, who's the liaison for the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think that's you right now, Jen?
It is. I am welcome to share the
Try
responsibility.
to get out of it, huh?
But I'm happy to keep it again. Whatever you all.
Is there a nomination on the floor?
Very good.
You've done such a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I make a motion to appoint Councilwoman Radusky for the, for the Planning and Zoning.
Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're not opposing, saying
I'm
you
not-
accept,
I'm not-
you accept the assignment.
I do.
Okay, well, you are doing a great job, so thanks.
You're
Okay,
outnumbered anyway.
Diane, please let the record show that
It doesn't
Councilwoman Radowski is the liaison for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it was a 5-0 vote. We now are looking for the appointment of the liaison for the Education Advisory Board, and currently, I think that's you, Jeff.
It is, and I'd like to continue in that capacity.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to retain Councilman Hamera in that position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay. Diane, please let the record show that Councilman O'Mara will continue to be the liaison for the EAB, Education Advisory Board, at a vote of 5-0. Okay. We now have, okay, we go down to item number 3, which is an appointment of council liaison officer for the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce. I think that's, is that you,
I think it's Richard.
Richard?
Yeah.
What say you?
I'm good.
You're good to do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I make a motion to appoint Councilman Valentes for the appointment for the Chamber of Commerce as the liaison.
Second.
We have 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that Councilman Valentes will continue to serve as the liaison for the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce. Weston's Community Council. I think I'm on the Western Communities Council. Not sure what's happening with it, but that being said, I'll continue in that role if no one else wants to.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the mayor be retained as the council liaison to the Western Communities Council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that I will continue, if there is a Western Community Council going forward, representing the council on that. We'll see. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah. And we have here.
They've actually dissolved.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought we were going to take that off. Okay. All right. So I don't need to even read it, right? Good. All right. Sorry about that. But okay, we're going down to agenda item number 5, which is an appointment of voting delegates for the Palm Beach County League of Cities. And I guess you're the current delegate. And I think the way we've done this is we pick one individual to be the delegate, but everybody else is a backup.
Right.
You want to continue with that?
I would like to.
Okay, we have a motion? A motion that says Councilman Humera is the delegate and the rest of the council members are backups?
Right.
I'll make a motion to appoint Councilman Humera to the voting delegate of Palm Beach County League of Cities with the remaining council members as backups.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. And I just want to make a kind of a prior announcement. It's only appropriate that Councilman Humera remain in that position because he will become the president
That's right.
of the Palm Beach County League of Cities, I think in next month?
March
May.
or May, that's
May.
right.
May. So,
May 22nd.
okay.
Good.
Diane, let the record show that the vote was 5-0. All right. Now we have appointment of vice mayor, and with that, I'll look at.
I make a motion to appoint Councilwoman Radusky as the vice mayor.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Congratulations, Councilwoman Radowski. You are now appointed the vice mayor for the next year. Diane, let the record show that the vote was done 5-0. Okay, I think with that, are there any questions? Any comments? No?
We have cake.
Let them eat cake. All right, we will stand in recess while we have some cake for the next 15 minutes. That work?
Sounds like a plan.
Pictures?
Oh, in pictures. We have to take pictures. Are the mics on? Okay. We're going to reconvene at this time. As soon as Richard Valentes gets back here, Councilman Valentes, here he comes now. We're ready to reconvene.
Yeah, please.
Okay, we're going to open the regular council meeting for the Village of Royal Palm Beach. Once again, welcome. It's Thursday, March 21st, and it's about 6:35 that we're initiating the regular meeting. We've already had the Pledge of Allegiance, so we don't need that again, and Diane showed that all members of council are still present. So we'll start out with reports this evening, and we'll start out with you, Vice Mayor.
See, I told you you wouldn't.
I knew it'd get you.
It's you, Jen.
Yeah, it's me. I'm sharing tonight 2 articles. One is 6 reasons governments should collaborate with artists. And I'll let you to the pleasure of reading it, but essentially, in a nutshell, the 6 reasons are: we need creative solutions, we need healing arts, we need creative pop-ups that bring neighbors together. It talks about culture is always central to place, and then artists help make hidden beauty visible. And then the second one is the secret ingredient of resilient cities is culture. And while this is really talking about more war-torn cities, it's still interesting that in order to heal society and community, they turn to art. So I just thought I'd share those 2.
Okay, very interesting.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, you're up.
Oh, great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We had a League of Cities meeting yesterday, feels like weeks ago now, that was kind of jam-packed with information, but one of the highlights was a chance to actually meet our new supervisor of election, Wendy Link. Someone characterized her as being a refreshing breath of fresh air. Actually, that's exactly how she came across. And I think we're fortunate to have her. She's fully engaged. One of the things she mentioned was actually 2 of her primary objectives are to make sure every vote counts and to provide good customer service. And that's defined as anybody who walks in through those doors or calls that office on the phone. And I'm sure Diane's had some interaction already, but in just talking with her, she is very committed to doing the kind of job that we really need to have done here, and she's starting off with replacing a lot of antiquated equipment, and I think they've got some 925 new voting machines coming in April, and some additional automated voter registration machinery, and a combination of those things and appropriate training for the poll workers kind of bodes well for us, I think, going into especially the 2020 elections that's coming up. So I think we're very fortunate. She received some guidance from our new governor, and it was keep Palm Beach County out of the news. So I think we all can appreciate that.
We can go with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So after the main meeting, we had a mini seminar, as we often do, on specific areas. This one was on small cell facilities in public right-of-ways. And we know that there was some legislation last year which really constrained what we could and couldn't do with regard to any kind of regulation of the location of these small antennas. The antennas themselves, according to this presentation, really are not as much of a problem as the associated equipment, which can be as large as the size of a refrigerator. And the idea that telecommunications companies, 4 principal ones, could locate this stuff any place they want, pretty much, is of concern to everyone logically. presentation was done by Gary Resnick, and he's a telecommunications expert on this subject. He's also an attorney, and he's actually testified before the U.S. Senate on this subject. So it was a very informative presentation. I gave our village manager a copy of the slides that he provided, and I think that might be a good resource for us as we go forward. And he encouraged us to engage in ordinances that would take advantage of the latitude that we do have, and gave a couple of examples. One was Miami Beach, and the other was Coral Gables, as having good examples of ordinances that provide us with some control over that situation. Next month, League of Cities meeting is going to be in Palm Beach Gardens at Sand Hill Crane Golf Club. Great place if you haven't been there. That's on April the 24th. I mention this for two reasons. One is to say if you haven't been to a League of Cities meeting in a while, you might want to come to this one, because the guest speaker is Congressman Brian Mast. It should be an interesting meeting, simply, if for no other reason, because the board of the League of Cities just passed yesterday a resolution regarding the Army Corps of Engineers reevaluation of Lake Okeechobee's operations manual. That followed the Board of County Commissioners resolution, basically both of them saying fundamentally the same thing, that there needs to be some serious data collection analysis as a basis for moving forward a more scientific application of consideration of the surrounding areas, the ramifications and that kind of stuff. And then it seems that generally we believe that that's taken place so far. And what it nets out to is a concern about lowering the minimum water level in the lake to 10.5 feet from 12.5 feet, which is what it's at right now. And of course, what that can mean to us is, we live in a unique environment. We either have too much water or too little water. And the concern would be that unfortunate combination of a drought and the lowering of the lake could have significant impacts. So it should be an interesting meeting for that reason, and also a chance to hear from our congressman. So after the general membership meeting on the 24th, we have our annual elected officials workshop. And I've handed out the agenda for that workshop. And it's not just for new elected officials, because as you can imagine, if you look at some of the presenters, they're going to be giving updated information. We have Todd Von Laren, who is the assistant county administrator, used to be our our legislative affairs representative to the county. For the county, so he knows a lot about Tallahassee and D.C., and that's what he's going to be talking about. Actually, the title of his presentation is an interesting one: Successful Partnerships in Tallahassee and D.C., and I can hardly wait to hear what he has to say. And then one of the other presentations that is always a good update is from Kelly Smallridge from BDB, a Business Development Board, and she's going to be talking about Palm Beach County's economy and where you fit in. So it should be a good presentation, and certainly worth a couple of hours that it takes to attend. One other thing I want to report on is this morning's Transportation Planning Agency meeting. The mayor asked me to sit in for Royal Palm Beach this morning. Wow, that was a full agenda. It was a 3-hour meeting, a lot of discussion, a lot of information. It included discussions about, so we talk about the concern we have for home rule and maintaining home rule. This is the first time I've seen a concern for home rule and a defense of home rule actually apply to something like transportation planning. But apparently, the Senate president has a set of priorities that are different from the planning agencies substantially in 3 particular corridors in Southeast Florida. So there's pushback, as you can imagine, and rightly so, from Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency and from Broward MPO and Miami-Dade TPO on this issues. And it's just another manifestation of the legislative action to preempt or take away our home rule authority. So it's something that we certainly need to continue to pay attention to. The TPA board adopted a resolution that approved the LRTP, the Long Range Transportation Plan, and the budget for the coming year. What was interesting about the budget in particular was that it's as approved, it will only be necessary if the TPA remains hosted by the county on October the 1st. Of course, the question was asked to the executive director, how confident are you? And he said he was, I will say he was guardedly optimistic. But one of the things that makes him optimistic is that FDOT formally committed $1.7 million for FY20 that will allow the TPA to start construction on their new office and meeting space downtown in West Palm Beach. So that's pending the building permit being issued. So looks very good going forward. There was a lot of discussion on a couple of items. One was a Vision Zero action plan. I think you mentioned Vision Zero last time, which included specific actions to be taken, targeting and trying to reduce traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. There were a couple of interesting points, and you all may be aware of this, that the people in Palm Beach County are at greatest risk while walking, bicycling, and riding a motorcycle. Palm Beach County experienced nearly a 9% jump in pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries in 2016. The vulnerable users of motorcycles, the bicyclists and pedestrians, accounted for more than 30% of all fatal and serious injury crashes. So there's a need for a program like this, and they had some very specific actions that are currently planned to approach these Vision Zero targets. So it seems like a very worthwhile thing to do. There was even more discussion about the activities surrounding North Lake Boulevard corridor, which includes a lot of stuff. And basically, it was a presentation by the county and also by TPA that identified projects that are either planned or underway along North Lake Boulevard, including things like the 60th Street work in the acreage, Seminole Pratt Whitney Road extension, the State Road 7 extension, which was talked briefly about, and a very large number of projects immediately on North Lake Boulevard. There were a lot of questions, especially about the intersection, and you probably have heard about this, and if you've ever driven through the intersection of Beeline Highway and North Lake, you know it can be really challenging, especially when there's a lot of traffic out there. The solution that's been proposed is, I'd say, probably an understatement to say it's a complex traffic pattern. They use about every U-turn you could possibly imagine, and some very interesting alternative routes, most of which I think were the result of avoiding putting in an overpass, which was opposed by Palm Beach Gardens, principally the PGA National. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. One of the things that some folks sometimes forget is that our road networks were interdependent. So what happens on North Lake can ripple into our roads and certainly into our commutes and things like that. So it's worthwhile paying attention to. That completes my report.
And the long-range planning update, was there discussion about State Road 7? Was that rolled off that already?
The discussion was a very brief one, just reminding everyone that it is another hearing is planned in August to look at the South Florida Water Management permit, which is the issue, and to discuss eminent domain as a possible approach to dealing with the problem.
Okay. It continues.
It continues.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Richard.
Just a couple. We actually had a bike rodeo event at Commons Park, and the director of
bring that up?
The director of the TPA was out there, and we had a decent showing. But it would be good if we can get more. At least at the time I got, I don't know how many people were in the first round, but I did see the second round, and the TPA director took the second and third round, so he was
leading the charge.
He was leading the charge, that's for sure. And then we had a
Showing
seafood festival last weekend, and unfortunately, of course, the day I went, it rained some, so hopefully we can get more people out and get some better weather for once for this.
It was pretty good Sunday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Sunday
I was there early, so
Sunday
I didn't
most of the
see
day.
a lot, but it was good to use the park and have things for folks to go to.
I will say the park looked great. It looked like a carpet.
Especially the lawn looked
Gonna
beautiful.
say that facade, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Actually, along the same lines, I was thinking the same thing, so thank you very much for working with the group for the Seafood Festival. And I did notice the sod on the Great Lawn. It looked beautiful, so it's fully coming in. It looks really nice. I had the pleasure of attending the Pop Warner football banquet that they had, so I went to their trophy presentation, and it is amazing just to see those young men, how they work together as a team, the coaches, the team mom, all of them. So congratulations again. And then on the 29th, we have a movie and gourmet truck expo over at Commons Park. So check that out too. Thanks.
Great.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Jennifer.
No report, thank you.
All right, then. I think that concludes our reports. At this time, if anyone has a petition they'd like to present to the council, now would be the time. Seeing none, okay, we'll close presentation of petitions. I have no comment cards submitted, but if anyone would like to comment on items not on the agenda this evening or items on a consent agenda, please come up. You're welcome to come comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment then on the non-agenda items and on the consent agenda. And with that, Diane, can you give us the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Number 1, approval of the minutes of the council regular meeting of March 7th, 2019. 2, fiscal year 2018 comprehensive annual financial report. 3, approval and authorization for the village manager to enter into an agreement with Texas Aquatic Harvesting Incorporated for harvesting services to remove floating vegetative debris from the village canal maintained system by piggybacking the South Florida Water Management District contract number 4600003673 for mechanical harvesting.
Okay. I have a light. Jan. Good.
I would like to pull agenda item number 2.
Number 2?
Yes.
Good, thank you. And,
I would like to pull consent agenda item number 3, please.
okay, I think that's a good idea too. All right, so with that, we're going to have a discussion on agenda items 2 and 3. So I'll look for, if there's no further questions, I'll look for a motion on agenda item number 1, consent agenda item number 1.
Move to approve consent agenda item number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Diane, please let the record show that consent agenda item number 1 was approved 5-0. And with that,
So I would like to invite Mr. Vale up to give us an overview of our fiscal year highlights.
okay.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening.
As always, I think we've got a good story. I think everybody's got a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report. Just thought I'd highlight a couple items. On page number 1 is the independent auditor's report. It is an unmodified opinion, which is the highest form of opinion we can give as independent certified public accountants. And it basically says that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. After the opinion, there's a section on the management discussion analysis, basically a comparison of the 18 and 17 numbers and some of the changes. I'll leave you to read that on your own. But on page 11, we've got the statement of net position, basically a balance sheet, assets and liabilities of the village as of September 30th, 2018. Like to point out here, we've got total assets of almost $174 million. Last year at this time, we had $173.5 million, so we're up about $400,000. And when you look at your assets, half of it is in investments in cash, and then the other half is in basically fixed assets, property and equipment. If we look at the liabilities, we've got $12.8 million in liabilities. Last year we had $12.7 million, so we really went up slightly, $150,000. One new thing to point out here, there's under the last item under liabilities, other post-employment benefits. For the year ended 9/30/18, there was a new accounting standard for governments that says that you need to put on your balance sheet any liabilities related to these post-employment benefits. The post-employment benefit that the village has is the offering of health insurance after you retire. Even though the employee becoming retiree pays the full cost of that, there's a perceived cost because they pay the same rate as an employee. So a 30-year-old pays the same cost as a 70-year-old, when in reality there is more of a cost perceived on the older individual. So that went on there. For the village, it's not a huge number. We've seen a lot larger numbers elsewhere. And then at the bottom of the page, at the end of the year, we end up with a net equity, if you will, of $163.4 million. We were at $164 million last year, so we went down about $400,000. Again, not significant. In terms of just on page 14 for a moment, we have the governmental funds. These are the primary funds, operating funds for the village. The main fund that everybody always looks at is the general fund. And we look here, we see at the end of 18, we have unassigned fund balance of $72.8 million. So those are uncommitted funds. The council can decide to use those for whatever they choose. There's no restrictions. There's no commitments on those. That's available money. And then also another measure that's often looked at is unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your expenditures for the year. And in your case here, you got 2.4 times your expenditures. So basically, if nothing happened tomorrow, you could theoretically run your village for almost 2.5 years without anything happening, which is a great place to be in. Looking at page 16 for a moment, we look at our total revenues on these governmental funds was $27.6 million versus $26.1 million in the prior year. That's up about $1.5 million. A couple big things here. This 18 was the first full year of the sales tax surtax, brought in an extra $800,000. Our impact fees were up about $500,000, and then our intergovernmental revenue on the impact fee fund were up about $200,000. When we look at our expenditures, they were $30.4 million versus $28.4 in the prior year. Those are up about $2 million. Roughly half of that is in the capital outlay, so money we spent to improve village properties, and then excuse me, another $500,000 was an increase in culture and recreation expenditures. We also, a little bit below that, we sold capital assets for $2.2 million. That was one of the fire stations. The prior year was $1.2 million, so we had an increase there. At the end of the year, we had expenditures in excess of revenues of $400,000. That compares to $1.2 million in the prior year. Again, the primary difference being the additional money from the sale of the fire station. That's pretty much the financial statement, the number part. Thereafter, we begin with the footnotes. And just to highlight again a few here, page 34, we talk about our cash in our investment portfolio. We've got $77.3 million in investments. Pretty much fixed income securities for the most part. And then if we look on page 37, you'll see that those are all quality rated securities, BBB or better. And actually the BBB is $500,000 out of roughly $53 million that are rated. So you're in high quality. Anything BBB and better, they consider investment grade, but you're at the top of that scale. Again, another good place to be. On page 41, we have a long-term debt note that has virtually nothing in it. The town or the village has no long-term debt left. We paid that all off. The only thing we've really got is a liability for compensated absences, which would be your accrued vacation and sick pay that will be paid out in the future. There's a new or an expanded footnote on page 50 and 51 that talks about the other post-employment benefits. A lot of information about how the actuaries derive the information, the inputs and assumptions that they use to arrive at that. And again, there you can see there it shows how they arrived at the $730,000 liability. And then lastly, in the very back of the report, there's a couple required reports that we are required to put in, several by the Governmental Accounting Standard Board and some by the State of Florida Auditor General. There's an internal control over, or a compliance and internal control report. We didn't find anything there that we were required to report. Actually, we didn't find anything, so that was good. We have a management letter, certain required things there. Again, nothing to report in terms of issues or concerns. And then lastly, we're required to put a report in for the Auditor General in terms of investment compliance. Basically, you have an investment policy as a village, and then there's Florida statutes, and there's nothing where we saw any deviations from compliance with your policy or the state's. So all in all, good place to be. Lots of places, lots of municipalities would love to be in the financial position that you guys are in.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stan, anything you want to add? No, sir. Okay. Are there any questions from members on council?
I'll just say that, every year we get to see such a healthy, strong financial report, and that's really a testament to our team at the village. And thank you for your leadership in making this, so fiscally sound of a village. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Ray, and your teams.
Definitely. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, if there are no further questions from council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R2 was presented and approved and the report accepted by a vote of 5-0. Okay, for agenda item 3, consent agenda item 3. I'm sorry, I made a mistake and said R2. It's consent agenda item 2. Okay. You're on, Paul.
I'm up, okay. Mr. Mayor, I prepared, and council, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. I prepared a very brief presentation just on how we got to where we are today with this agreement that we've proposed to you this evening. Back in July of 2017, as you recall, we terminated our contract with our aquatic vegetation maintenance service contractor for cause. Among the reasons that the contractor, and there were other reasons, but among them was for not removing floating debris in accordance with our agreement. We issued a request for proposals, and we received two quotes, or two proposals from two contractors. In those proposals, the cost bid for floating debris removal were extremely high. Far exceeded the cost to provide the actual treatment of the system. Due to the cost bid for that, the decision was made to award the contract without the requirement for floating debris removal and handle the future debris removal on an as-needed basis. During fiscal year 19, the 2018-2019 fiscal year, we did identify in early May the need for a contractor to come in and remove floating debris from the system. Initially, because there was not at that particular time a lot of debris in the water, we were not able to get a contractor to quote to work because there was not sufficient work for them to bring their equipment in, to mobilize their equipment. Towards the end of May of 2018, the amount of floating debris had increased significantly, and we obtained the 3 quotes for removal of debris. But that quoting process took time. So we were not able to, by the time we issued the purchase order, we were not able to mobilize the contractor until June 25th, and the contractor worked until July 10th to remove the debris. The delay that we experienced in getting a contractor on board did have an impact on the use of the canals during the July 4th holiday season for that year. On July 19th, 2018, at the budget workshop, there was a discussion on the management of floating debris within the canal system maintained by the village. While much of the discussion on the removal of the floating debris centered around the use of the canal for boating and fishing, the removal of the floating debris does have, over time, positive water quality effects. If the debris is not removed, it'll eventually sink to the bottom of the canal and decay, and will then release the nutrients back into the water column and degrade the water quality. To address the issue, all of the issues with the floating debris, on the August 16th council agenda, we proposed an increase in the monthly stormwater utility fee of $1 per ERU to fund water quality maintenance activities in the village's stormwater management system. The agreement proposed today addresses the issues discussed during the budget hearing last July.
Paul, just tell everybody what ERU is.
Sir?
What is the ERU? Let everyone know.
Equivalent residential unit. I'm sorry. I do this for a living.
That's
so,
okay.
It's the unit of measure we use to base the amount of a home or a business pays for the utility fee. The proposed agreement provides for aquatic harvester services for floating debris removal during the months of May through September, which is the time frame where we experience the vast amount of the debris issues that we have experienced. The agreement piggybacks the South Florida Water Management contract number 463673, the rates for aquatic harvester services. In this agreement proposed today, the contractor agrees to respond within 72 business hours when requested by village staff. This is one of the issues that we had discussed during that budget hearing. The contractor, to that end, because of the issue with that, these companies, there's not a lot of them, but the companies that do harvester work only work on an hourly or weekly basis, period. There's not another one out there that works any other way. So to that end, the contractor, this agreement will guarantee the contractor 1 week's work for meeting the 72-hour response time. If the contractor does not meet the required response time, they'll just be paid at the hourly and weekly rates provided, whether they work for a week or they work for 3 days. One of the other issues that we face in managing debris in our canal system is the unique nature of our canal system and the limited access we have in many areas of the system. Due to that, the contractor will be compensated or will be required to move its operations periodically to gain access to other areas that need to be cleaned. Additionally, several areas of the system currently can only be accessed using a crane to launch the harvester. For these reasons, we've included in this agreement compensation to the contractor as listed there, $500 each time the harvester must be moved. That work, of course, would be coordinated with village staff and would be capped at $10,000 in any fiscal year. The contractor will be reimbursed for the actual crane costs, which will be capped at $10,000 in a fiscal year. The original contract term for the South Florida Water Management District contract that we're piggybacking expires on September 30th, 2020, and provides for 2 additional 1-year renewals. The proposed agreement we have proposed to expire at that same time on September 30th, 2020, and may be renewed for 2 additional 1-year periods, provided the South Florida Water Management District contract has been renewed. This agreement may be terminated by either party with 30 days written notice. To get you an idea, and I gave you a large copy of this map, I knew you wouldn't be able to see this one on the screen, to give you an idea of the difficulty in access. And the green dots you see on that map are points where we can launch a harvester, depending on the size of the harvester. And the shore conveyor can be set up for removing the debris. Red dots are areas where the harvester could be launched with a crane, and the yellow dots are areas where we could set up a shore conveyor for removing the debris. The management of the debris is challenging at best. Just a quick background on how we got to where we are today. In July, we contracted for removing floating debris, this is actually our historical harvester operations. In July 2017, after we terminated our agreement with our aquatic vegetation maintenance contractor, we contracted for removing floating debris from the canal system. The contractor that we hired at this time was the same contractor we have proposed this evening. They worked for 5 weeks, removed 422.5 cubic yards at a cost of $48,770. The cost to move operations and reimbursement for crane costs were less than $5,000 each. The movement costs were $3,000. The crane costs were about $4,800. The 422.5 cubic yards of aquatic weeds removed at that time equates to the removal of 353 pounds of total phosphorus and 871 pounds of total nitrogen from the system. Where we get those numbers from is we used the Florida Stormwater Association tool that they have set up to analyze BMPs in the system. And that's their recommended use for us to identify in our MPDS report every year on what credit we should take for removal of nutrients from the system from that operation. In June, we contracted for removing floating, June of 2018, we again contracted for removing floating debris from the system. This contractor only worked for 2 weeks, removed 280 cubic yards at a cost of $30,426. There were no costs to move the operations and hired a crane due to the size of the harvester used. We opted when we hired this contractor to get a guy, not a small harvester, but a medium size, something smaller that wouldn't require the level of effort to pack it up and move it to another location. So they didn't. There was no additional charges for that work. He wasn't going to need any crane work. So our thought was that operation would be a cheaper operation, and it would have been, except he couldn't keep up. So we ended up having to bring another contractor in, another harvester in, particularly to work the area over in Crestwood, the area where you see where the two islands are over there. We had to have another harvester come in to work that area. And then, of course, it rained and flushed everything out, and that was a great help to us. The 280 yards we took out, that equates to the removal of 234 pounds of total phosphorus and 577 pounds of total nitrogen from the system. And with that, that's my brief presentation.
That's your brief presentation. Okay.
And I will take any questions.
No, it is a long story, and obviously we've had residents and sharing with us their frustrations and concerns, and I'm glad we were able to put an action plan together to get ahead of this and not let it get ahead of us. I think you had a comment?
Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. And because we did have several residents who voiced their concerns on it. So just to clarify, is that you said you can give the harvester, is it 72 hours of notice, and they would be here for up to a week at a time, or remove it, and then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Agreeing.
And then my other question is now that we're going into the high time for this, the June, July, August, do you foresee that this person can maintain it? Do you find that, do you anticipate it?
This is the contractor. He's got the larger harvester. We do anticipate, obviously, that in order to clean everything, we will have to move his operation, and there will be crane costs associated with it. But there were only 2 contractors that quoted South Florida's contract, and there's only 2 or 3 that work this part of the state. Every time we have bid, either through a direct bid or a request for proposals, and it included large harvester work, this is the contractor everybody quoted.
Thank you.
Jeff.
So Paul, we're piggybacking on South Florida Water Management contract, right?
That's correct.
Did you get a chance to talk to anybody over there as to how satisfied they are with the work that this contractor's done for them?
They, oddly enough, although the contract is in place, they have not utilized it.
Really?
They put it in place.
That's very,
So they're
very interesting.
from either contractor.
Okay, so not a
I
lot of
don't know what
feedback
South
coming
Florida's
there.
doing,
Yeah.
but right now they're not harvesting.
Okay, well, that's
But
very
it-
interesting.
but
It'll
it
be
is a
available
good
for
contract.
us.
Doing other
It
stuff.
is a good contract, and
Right.
the prices were favorable prices.
So you would expect there's going to be a lot more responsive than some of the other experiences we've had when we needed a harvesting, right?
I do expect
Yeah.
that, yes.
One other question. So in the logistics of that nasty stuff that gets harvested, is there a conveyor belt that goes directly from their harvesting equipment into a truck, or are they going to be storing it on the shore someplace?
No, they take it right off the harvester into a conveyor, and then it gets hauled over to the Public Works laydown yard.
Okay, so it's not going to be sitting on a bank someplace for any
sir.
time at all?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, members of council? If there are none, I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda item number 3.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that consent agenda item number 3 was approved 5-0. Thanks again, Paul, for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move to the regular agenda. And regular agenda item R1 is a public hearing to consider application 18-94, an application by Schmidt Nichols in adoption of Resolution 190-06, confirming the council action. The applicant is seeking site plan modification and architectural approval for an existing vehicle sales and rental use situated on approximately 33.43 acre parcel of land located at 9205 Southern Boulevard.
Great. Thank you, Mayor.
I need to, this is quasi
This
judicial?
is quasi-judicial,
Thank you.
yes.
So I'll have staff and the applicant's team, if you're going to be speaking tonight, can you raise your right hand and I'll swear you in? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, thank you. And now I'll turn to council and ask if anyone has any ex parte disclosures on this application.
No.
None.
All right, thank you.
Great. The applicant is proposing various modifications to the site plan, which include a 1,081 square foot addition to the existing building, modification on the site traffic circulation, revised signage, and proposed changes to the south facade and color scheme. The applicant is also proposing changes to the landscape plan related to the above, to these mentioned changes. As stated, the applicant is proposing to block off several drive aisles on the Mazda parcel. If you can see my cursor here, and they're circled on this slide. This is to prevent the general public from getting back into their inventory spaces. And the fire department will maintain access to the back of the house or the rear of the buildings through rolling gates with Knox boxes. The proposed addition will be to the Mazda sales building, and the applicant is requesting architectural approval for south building facade. The applicant is also proposing to change the south elevation colors from green, orange, and steel to black and white, as shown here on this slide. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved this application on February 26, 2019 by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of this application. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bradford. Would the applicant like to make any comments at this time? So you feel that the project was adequately presented by Bradford? Okay. I do not have any comment cards on agenda item R1, but if anyone here would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment for agenda item R1 and opening up the comments from members of council. There are no comments or questions, I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve application 18-94.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R1 was approved 5-0. Good luck. Agenda item R2 is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance number 984 and approval of application number 18-84, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 10 tracts of land totaling approximately 11.20 acres from the county's architectural residential estate and the village's private recreation and single-family RS3 zoning districts to the village's general commercial zoning district located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7. Now, this is a quasi-judicial, and so are the next 6 items, so you want to swear them all in it for all of them?
I think I saw everybody raise their hand back there, so I think we're good on swearing in. What I'll ask council is for regular agenda item 2 through 7, if anyone has any ex parte disclosures they need to make on any of those applications. We'll just do it now.
I have none.
Okay, thank you.
So everybody sworn in?
Yes, they are all sworn in.
All right, go, Brett.
Great, thank you. And if I may, a lot of what's in my presentations is redundant for each item. So what I would like to do is for the first item, go through those things and what we review these applications and what we base that review on. And then I'll skip those portions in the following applications, and I'll just simply state the intent of the application, how the local planning agency voted on those applications. That way, I'm not saying the same thing over 6 times.
In other words, that applies to all of the other
Yes, sir.
additional items?
Right.
The other agenda items?
Right.
Okay.
The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop the property for roadway purposes, to provide a secondary ingress and egress point for the from State Road 7 to and Southern Boulevard. In reviewing the proposed rezoning of the parcels to the general commercial zoning district, village staff considered compatibility with the adjacent land uses, consistency with the village's comprehensive plan, and conformance with the general commercial zoning district and the development standards within that district, specifically as it relates to parcel size, parcel width, setbacks, and pervious area. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And staff is recommending approval of ordinance 984 on first reading. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bradford. Would the applicant like to make any comments at this time? So you feel that it was properly represented by the presentation from Bradford? Okay. I do not have comment cards on this agenda item R2, but if anyone would like to comment from the public, now would be the time. Seeing none, then I'm closing public comment on agenda item R2. Open up for comment from members on council. I have no lights, so I'll look for a motion.
Can I read the ordinance title? Thank you. This is ordinance number 984, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 10 parcels of land comprising a total of 11.200 plus or minus acres, more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Erica Boulevard, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item R2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R2 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R3 is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance number 988 and approval of application number 18-83, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. The applicant is seeking rezoning of 8 tracts of land totaling approximately 31.846 acres from the county's agricultural residential estate and residential transitional and the village's private recreation zoning districts to the village's general commercial zoning district. located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 7/10 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you, Mayor. These tracts consist of several single-family homes on large tracts. The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop these portions as for commercial uses. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of ordinance 988 on first reading. And I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, is the applicant satisfied with the presentation? Yeah. Okay. I have no comment cards for agenda item R3, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comments on agenda item R3. Open for comments from members on council. There are no comments. Read by title.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 988, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 8 parcels of land comprising a total of 31.846 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 6, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay. Then no comments. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item 3.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R3 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R4 is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance number 986 and approval of application number 18-21. An application by Urban Design Kilday Studios and approval of ordinance number 986. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 9 tracts of land totaling approximately 23.95 acres from the county's agricultural residential, residential estate, and residential transitional in the village's general commercial zoning district to the village's multifamily residential district, RM4-14 zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 7/10 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And the applicant has indicated in their justification statement that their intent is to construct 318 multifamily units. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019 by a vote of, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of ordinance 986 on first reading. Thank you. I'll turn the floor to you, Mayor. Thank you.
The applicant satisfied with the presentation representing the project? Okay. I have no comment cards on agenda item R4, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, then I'm closing public comment for agenda item R4. Comment from members on council. If there are no comments, I'll look for a motion. Read by title first.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 986, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 9 parcels of land comprising a total of 23.952 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 3, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RM14 Multifamily Residential District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no comments from council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R4.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R4 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R5 is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance number 985 and approval of application number 18-81, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios. And approval of, the applicant is seeking a rezoning of 9 tracts of land totaling approximately 29.86 acres from the village's single-family residential zoning designation to the village's multifamily residential district, Residential District, zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you, Mayor. The applicant in their justification statement stated that their ultimate goal is to develop the property for 401 multifamily dwelling units. And the local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and recommended approval by a vote of 5-0. And staff is recommending approval of ordinance 985 on first reading. And I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any comment cards on agenda item R5, but if anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll close public comments on agenda item R5, and there are no comments from council.
Good. Okay. Ordinance number 985, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 9 parcels of land comprising a total of 29.4 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 2, providing that this parcel of real property, which is more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RM14 multifamily residential district, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for this parcel of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Out there, gave the applicant an opportunity, but okay, good. Just wanted to make sure for the record. All right, if there are no comments from members on council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R5 was approved 4-1 with Councilwoman Semios opposing. Okay? Agenda item R6 is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance number 989, and approval of application number 18-16. An application by Urban Design Kilday Studios and approval of ordinance number 989. The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 7 tracts of land totaling approximately 10.174 acres from the county's agricultural residential district to the village's general commercial zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you. The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop the property as a STEAM charter school. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this application on February 26, 2019 by a vote of 5-0. And staff is recommending approval of ordinance 985, or I'm sorry.
989.
Right. On first reading. Thank you.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make comments or satisfied with presentation? Okay. I do not have any comment cards for agenda item R6, but if anyone would like to comment from the public, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R6. If there are no comments from council, read by title.
Yes, thank you. This is ordinance number 989, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 7 parcels of land comprising a total of 10.174 plus or minus acres more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 7, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of CG General Commercial District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments from council, I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve regular agenda item number 6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that agenda item R6 was approved 5-0. Agenda item R7 is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance number 987 and approval of application number 18-82, an application by Urban Design Kilday Studios and approval of ordinance number 987 The applicant is seeking a rezoning of 2 tracts of land totaling approximately 4.939 acres from the county's agriculture residential zoning district to the village's single-family residential zoning district, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.7 of a mile west of State Road 7.
Great, thank you. The applicant has indicated in their justification statement that they intend to develop the property for 106 single-family homes. The local planning agency considered this application on February 26, 2019, and voted to approve by a vote of 5-0, and staff is recommending approval of ordinance 987 on first reading. And I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bradford. Would the applicant like to make any comments? No? Okay, you're satisfied with the presentation provided. Okay, I do not have any comment cards on agenda item R7. If anyone would like to comment, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'm closing public comment on agenda item R7 and open for comment from members on council. If there are no comments, read by title.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 987, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, providing for the rezoning of certain real property within the corporate limits of the village, which property consists of 2 parcels of land comprising a total of 4.94 plus or minus acres, more or less, located on the south side of Southern Boulevard and approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7, US 441, informally known as the Southern Boulevard Properties Pod 4, providing that these parcels of real property, which are more specifically described herein, shall be assigned the village zoning designation of RS3 Single Family Residential District, providing that the zoning map of the Village of Royal Palm Beach be amended to reflect the proper designation for these parcels of real property, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay, there are no comments from members on council. I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve regular agenda item number 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, I'm sorry, what's the matter? You want to know who did the second? I think it was Councilman O'Mara. Let the record show that agenda item R7 was approved 5-0. And at this time, there are no further business before the council this evening. I thank you all for your hard work, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Let them eat cake.